Hello and welcome to There's No Business Like, a podcast where friends and industry colleagues explore topics and interview leaders in our industry of professional theatrical touring.
Welcome back to There's No Business Like. I am here today with my friends, Katie.
Hi, everyone. Katie Traska-Miller with Michigan Maven Creative Associates coming to you from Midland, Michigan.
Danielle.
Hey, it's Danielle Van Hook from the Alden in McLean, Virginia.
Brian.
Brian Zelmer from Bardavon Presents, and today I'm in Kingston, New York.
Why are you in Kingston, New York?
I'm at UPAC, one of our beautiful venues. We're about to celebrate our 100th season, so we're getting ready for that.
Congratulations.
Nice.
Very
Thanks.
Nice.
I wasn't here to start it off, so.
He has been there the entire time. And I'm coming to you from Marion, Illinois at the Marion Cultural and Civic Center. Today, I want to bring up the idea of prioritizing yourself within your workload and specifically taking time off for your own auxiliary goals or vacation or whatever you personally need for a mental reset. This is top of mind for me because our friend Todd Wetzel, who has been a guest on the podcast, is currently in the middle of a Trans-America bike ride. He is riding all the way from Virginia to Oregon, from coast to coast, and he is 1,200 miles into his 4,500-mile ride. And we were a stopover at our home yesterday evening, and then this morning I had the great pleasure of starting off his next ride. He had a friend that rode the first 1,200 miles with him.
Wow.
That's a good friend.
I had the great pleasure and honor of kicking off the first 8 miles of his 70 miles today.
You did a good job centering yourself in that.
Yes, just...
I'm kidding.
And so Todd is taking a complete sabbatical. His email response currently says that he will not be checking that email until August 17th. He is trusting his team to run everything in his absence, and he has a fabulous team.
Does his team check his email for him? Because I know I miss like one day of work and I come back to like 100 unread emails. I can't imagine the amount of time he's gone, how many emails are going to be back.
I'm sure he'll have plenty. I don't know that they're checking them, but there is a redirect in the email that directs you to reach out to his staff there at Purdue Convocations. But it was just really refreshing to hear about Todd's first 20 days going that first 1,200 miles, to hear how much he truly is disconnecting, unplugging, and really just centering on what he's focused on right now. I myself am recently on a new fitness journey where I've started to run again. And during that time, I'm either listening to audiobooks or listening to nothing or listening to Dr. Dre's 2001 Chronic album.
How amazing is it to listen to nothing? I do that in the car sometimes.
I love to do that.
Well, and that's what Todd's doing for his ride.
The whole ride.
So yeah, I want to know before you go on, did Todd have any what is this, like a quarter of the way epiphanies?
No, not specifically. The interesting thing is that, he's riding a bike and it's self-supported, which means he's carrying 70 pounds of tools, sleeping bag, one tent, clothes, food, water. And so he has between 70 and 80 pounds on his bike in addition to himself at any given time.
Wow.
But just the idea of being able to focus on things outside of work and giving yourself the time to do that. We don't all need or have the ability to take, 3 months to do that right now. Mm-hmm. But even for myself, taking the hour to do that I've been taking, I've been so much more productive whenever I've actually been back at my desk.
Yeah.
We talk about productivity a lot, and that's something that has been talked about just in weekly hours and setting hours, and how some people come to me, they're like, oh, that person didn't make their 40 hours. And I'm looking at the workload and the quality of the work they're coming with. And I'm like, they're getting their job done. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not paid to sit at a desk, just for an arbitrary amount of time. And that's something that's hard for a lot of people to get over and think about, but
especially accountants.
Yeah. Well, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, how there was studies. I remember a couple of years ago, it was around the pandemic. It might've been just before, that came out and talked about how people over the age of 40, they found that worked a 3-day work week were as productive or more productive than people in the same cohort that worked a 5-day work week. And that just like blows your mind. Like, oh, were they just slacking off the other when they were there for 5 days? Not necessarily. It was just that they were more recharged. They were more focused on it, and they knew they had shorter amount of time. And they had more personal time. So they came in with more energy and more thoughts and more like just more productivity. And just, it's really fascinating because that study is something I've always carried in. And there was a recent study, not about age groups. It was just about workers in general out of the UK. And it was about a similar thing, about a 4-day work week, how generally people that work a 4-day work week and not extended hours to make it, 10-hour days, we're talking about just normal shifts, they actually saw productivity either stay the same or go up in every case. They repeated this study multiple times. And so, there's something there, and it's something I think we intuit and feel, but it's something that the rest of the world's kind of just learning about and maybe not quite yet believing.
Well, and Brian, that's super interesting. And Josh, the question you're raising about how do we make time for ourselves, whether that's on a daily, weekly basis or, an extended vacation or something. Our field is a little bit different though, because not all of us are sitting in an office for 40 hours a week doing desk tasks, right? And so how does that look different for the varying departments within our organizations? So if you're on the tech team, right, and you're working backstage, those are very different hours and a very different set of expectations and needs than an administrative, person who is in an office versus ticket office in front of house. So how do we make sure that we are accommodating those different work schedules and ensuring that they all have that balance that we're striving for of time to get done, just the daily tasks of life, rest time, and, the productivity that our organizations need, because we do still have to get the job done. So how do we take that into account as well and make sure that everyone is getting that opportunity?
And I think partially too, what Brian is saying is, how does everybody also see that level of fairness? Mm-hmm. Because within the same organization, the same rules can't apply to those people that have very normal hours or their normal hours, maybe not necessarily Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, versus, the people that are working until 3 a.m. and then you don't see them again until Wednesday. There's, I think it's always interesting in ways where there's science that tells us one thing, but we have this cultural memory of something else, and how hard it is to change that cultural perception of what is okay. And Katie, you and I have talked about this concept in motherhood, yes. The entire time we've known each other, right? It peeks its head up in other places of what is actually good for humans versus what we all believe we're supposed to be doing, or what makes us less of a target. I think in some instances, I think in a lot of ways, it's a protective measure, a defensive thing, how can we fix that?
My theory is that some of this comes to the point where I think it might be a human nature thing where we compare ourselves or benchmark ourselves to other people. And if we're working one of those 9 to 5 roles and we see people that, we're not taking into account that they're there for 16 hours on a day doing tech or production, and we see them leaving at 4 o'clock on a day, and we're like, wait a minute, I'm stuck here till 6. I think there's some of that. And I think what happens is you also have people that take advantage of the situation, and they're the ones that are the role models that people hold up as, oh, this is why you can't do that, because people will take advantage of it. They're just going to go play video games or go watch movies or sleep all day. They're not going to get the work done. And that's what people compare to, because people do that. There are people that have done that, but they're the ones that aren't going to be able to turn in the quality work when it's done, when it's time to. And that stuff eventually, reveals itself. But I think people kind of put everybody in that box, oh, if they're, I can't work at home. If they're working at home, they're not really working. And it's, there's a lot of that going on too.
Is the, solution, for lack of a better word, to cross-train people so that they can see, all the jobs and have an idea of the intricacies of how the whole organization works? Or is it retrain people's idea of perception of fairness? We all have limited time, sometimes more than anything, limited budgets, limited everything. So if you did want to make some kind of change like that, like what works for like, is it a different strategy within one organization?
So then, Josh, Brian, Danielle, how are your organizations making room for rest and making room for people to take that seriously? Because we do have this like go, go, go culture, and it's ingrained in us from a very young age as arts people, right? Our work is our passion. It is our whole lives. If you're not present, you're not doing your job. So how are your organizations working to change that? You as leaders yourselves, and then what sort of policies are you putting in place? And we're going to talk about summer because we're in summer, and a lot of organizations do have downtime in the summer. That's not the same for every organization. A lot do have summer programming, summer festivals, but using summer as an example, how are you instituting this idea of taking time off, rest? Are you doing summer Fridays, half days here and there? How are you instituting a culture shift?
2 weeks ago, just had to have a conversation with one of our staff. He's like, I'm feeling a little bit burnt out. And I said, when's the last time you had a break? Like a legitimate, like multi-day break where you're not thinking about this. And he couldn't figure out when that last time was.
So did you fire him?
Yeah, so he's gone. He now has that break that he needed. No, I sat down with him and I said, let's look at the calendar. Let's figure out when to get you out of here. But you have to promise me you will disconnect, leave, go somewhere for a weekend, or even just do something that you love that's outside of here for a few days. We need to just find a time. And whether you're taking vacation time or just flex time based on schedule, either way, I need you to completely disconnect.
I want that on a t-shirt, Josh. That whole 2 minutes speech you just gave.
Yeah.
The print would be so very, very small, Brian, but yes.
No, but it's so true what Josh said. Like, it's so important.
And that's I'll be honest, that's a hard burden to put upon leadership to then hold everyone accountable for taking care of themselves and taking the breaks that they need. I've got a number of employees who are very good about doing exactly that. And they take a couple of vacations throughout the year and they disconnect and they come back completely refreshed, and it's wonderful. And then I've got a couple who don't do that at all, and that I find myself trying to keep track of when the last time that they've taken a break was and pushing them in that direction.
Yeah. And Josh, I know you're not one of these types, but I think sometimes you can say a lot of good stuff, but if you yourself or like the top people in the organization don't follow that, then it sets that unprecedented rules that aren't said of, yeah, we have these days off, but no one takes them. So I guess, we can't. Or I think that extends to like the lunch break. Where it's like, if you're always eating at your desk and clearly working and not like, I don't know, online shopping or doing something that's
I feel called out, Danielle, but it's so true. We need to model.
It's
I
so
think of
easy.
that. It is. I think of that. I'm modeling the thing that I'm telling them not to do. And it's so hard because of deadlines and all the things we have to do. That is difficult. I admit it.
I will say that for the lunch thing in particular, because that is that small reset, that small break in the day, and it's meeting a basic human need of physical nourishment, right? And so many of us skip it. I will say when I was at Interlochen, lunch in the cafeteria was part of our benefits package. So you could go and have lunch in the caf with the students every day that you were working, right? That was built in. And thankfully, the department I was in, we had built a culture of talking in the morning. Okay, what does everyone's days look like? When are we taking lunch? And at least 5 or 6 of us would make it a priority to gather other people up, right? And say, we're going to the caf now. Can you take a break? Or, and maybe we would go in shifts or teams, but it really was built into the culture of the presentations department to make sure that everyone got a lunch break and went to the cafeteria. We had to walk across campus. So you got some exercise in, you got a pretty decent meal, I would say. Like the caf food was really not half bad. And you got social time at the same time.
All important things.
So we built that into the culture. But then when I went to Center for the Arts, there was the exact opposite. Nobody cared. The example was set that you never leave your desk, you never leave your office. I would say I took a lunch break maybe once every 3 weeks and would go home or go out for lunch with a colleague. Otherwise, I was just eating like crap at my desk, to be honest, because there was no time. There was no time to do anything else. And I know my physical health and my mental health suffered by never having a break throughout the course of the day.
Too, like, I think we also always talk about like leading from all levels. And I think that even as not a supervisor of many, that's also a place where like, I think I try to also make the example. It's not just the executive or the director who makes the culture. Like, it's all of us. And so like trying to like get people together to do those things, or to like, when we're planning like large events, be like, okay, so here's when your lunch break is scheduled. I've already thought about that. Does that time work for you? Like, everybody's body wants to do things differently. You don't always know ahead of time, but and then also like in our teen programs, like we always talk about how mental health is health, and like a break here and there is a lot of times the best thing for you. And like, we don't count it against them for needing that. And, I think even for those of us who aren't at the top of the sheet, like there are ways to lead from our chairs that aren't necessarily policy, but can build towards that culture and maybe more questions being asked, or like just, a more proactive culture on care.
Brian, how do you encourage your team members to take rest or make time for that?
I'm constantly asking them, because it comes up in conversation. A lot of times they're like, oh, over the weekend I was doing, I'm like, you weren't supposed to be working over the weekend. Take care of yourself. I call them out on it, and they'll say, well, I saw an email come in from you. I'm like, yeah, we work different hours. I was working. I was at the theater, and we have to remember
and your
that,
staff is in different locations.
Yeah. And we have all different schedules. It's very complicated. And I have to keep reminding everybody that email, like I've said this probably 5 times on the podcast, so regular listeners, I apologize for repeating, but
yeah, we're all tired of it, Brian.
If you're off the clock, email is not an emergency. Email is just a communication. When you get back on the clock, then you catch up with it. But if it's an emergency, I will call or text. I always say that. And I have to remind people that, yes, you'll see emails come from me at 10 o'clock at night because I didn't start my day until 1 o'clock in the afternoon, or I didn't, whatever. We have these very flexible, very uneven, irregular schedules. And so, I do work when I'm working, and I do turn off. This past Monday, I was supposed to be off, and I decided to not even take my phone downstairs. I left it by the bed. And it was so hard the first 2 hours. I kept going to reach for it and check it. And by lunchtime, I was like, not realizing I forgot my phone, and it felt so freeing. I cannot recommend it enough to just leave your phone away from you for a whole day. It's really terrifying, especially when you have kids and you're worried about what if an emergency, but I did it the whole day, and I didn't get back to my phone until I went to bed, and I felt so great. It was just amazing.
But with your age, what if you fell and couldn't get back up?
I know, that's the risk. You have to take risks in life sometimes, your adventures, just like your bike riding and your running, Josh, you could get hurt. You could get hit by a car. There's a lot of risks, but there's a lot of reward, and obviously the reward outweighs the risk for you. And that's why you do it.
Well, and your geriatric comment also brings to mind, some people bike across the country.
Yeah.
Other people
Go Todd.
Leave their phone upstairs.
It's totally the same. It's totally equal. I'm just like Todd. Thank you, Danielle. I appreciate that.
People of all age levels and abilities can find their own way.
Yes.
I'm encouraged for myself. I know this next week I'm in Miss Illinois production, and it's a heavy week, and I'm not going to be able to take any of that time after today, which is why I focused on getting that bike ride in with Todd this morning. And then the next 2 weeks after that, I'll be working on a mural, and I will unplug from the venue for those 2 weeks. And that the mural work is a creative endeavor that is also a way for me to unplug and to focus on something else in my mind, working in a different way. And so I'll come back from that mural exhausted but refreshed. So in addition to the things that we've been doing to take care of ourselves, Kevin, who wasn't available to join us today, is doing an incredible race up in Alaska. He is doing the Mountain Marathon race. And while it sounds like a marathon, it's actually a 5K. But it's a 5K with 3,000 feet of elevation running straight up a mountain.
That sounds
like
terrible.
a bad idea.
In Alaska.
That sounds beautiful, but it sounds difficult.
And so it's going to be, it's a crazy race. and Kevin has been driving to, like, he's been driving up to Georgia to try and run in the mountains to train a little bit for it. And he's been putting in a lot of effort towards it. So Kevin has that upcoming, and we're really looking forward to how he does there. So we hope that all of you take some time and think about how you can unplug, disconnect just a little bit, even if it's over your lunch hour. I personally like to go to the gym over lunch hours and then grab a protein bar or protein shake on my way back and then dive back in. But take some time and really think about yourself, focus on yourself and what you need to be better at work by not being at work or involved in work or mentally engaged with work all the time. Until then, we will see you back here again on There's No Business Like.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to There's No Business Like. Our producers and hosts are Brian Zelmer, Josh Benson, Kevin Maynard, Katie Miller, and me, Danielle Van Hook. Views expressed in this podcast are ours alone and are not reflective of the organizations we are a part of. Keep up with us at nobusinesslike.com. There you'll find links to all of our episodes and socials. If you like this podcast, give us a like, a follow, a review, or our favorite, a 5-star rating. Oh, wait, what was that site? I got it, don't worry. It is nobusinesslike.com. Do I sound out bus-I-ness every time I type it? Yep, sure do. Stay in touch, my friends.
And then after that, are you not? You said until then, but what happens afterwards?
Oh, I don't care what they do.
It's very unsettling.
You guys know, I just sit here all week just with it open, like just waiting until I see you again. Because you're like, until I see it. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm here.